Hi, I'm Kim. You're watching Kim Wilson TV. My channel is dedicated to helping victims of narcissistic abuse get free and stay free. Now, there was a special request in the comments to do a video about how narcissists use social media. Now, this vast public forum really creates a stage for these depraved individuals to try and get their mask repositioned. It is first and foremost an avenue that they take to try and, reposition their mask and salvage, this fake image that they're trying to present. It also creates a huge platform for creating a smear campaign and publicly spreading lies. It also gives them desperately needed attention supply. And we're going to explore what's been happening to me over the last 2 weeks. And certainly I want to hear your comments on how social media has been used by these depraved, menacing demons to maybe infiltrate your life. And I bet there's a lot of us who have experienced this. Now, though we've slightly mentioned this absolute deplorable sack of shit briefly in other videos, I will go into it a bit more, but by no means am I ever going to actually say this disgusting demon's name. One reason is this fiend has lost all of its supply, and you can see through its actions that it has become absolutely frenzied, desperate for supply. I mean, clawing and digging and right in the swamp. So it wants that recognition. It desperately needs that attention, and I absolutely refuse to feed a demon like that. The other thing is, this fiend has a very unusual last name. Now, though she herself has launched horrendous smear campaigns against her family, I like her family. They are very successful, very affluent, very funny, very much alive human beings. And I wouldn't want to drag them, or associate them with her, because they've done everything in their power to completely cut this evil entity off from their life and to move on, despite all the harm she's caused them, and to, just go on to have really wonderful lives. So I don't want to drag them anywhere near this horrible thing that they've fought so hard to separate themselves from. Now, sure, a public smear campaign could be painful or unsettling, but it's also really funny, and it's also all telling of this person's level of evil and how insane they really are. So, if you just let them do their thing, give them enough rope, they will hang themselves, they will fully expose themselves. And always remember, if you're being targeted by a narc, a psychopath, sociopath, a borderline personality disorder fiend, it is because this disgusting human being sees you as superior to them. They don't want to diminish the diminished. No, they're looking for someone who's more successful, who has more joy in their life, who has more friends, who has, more self-esteem, someone who they truly believe is superior to them. That's what they want to crush. That's who they want to harm. So even if you're finding this painful or horrifying, just remember, you are a better person than them, and that's why they've targeted you. So how do these predators, these parasites, use social media? Well, one way is a smear campaign. They do love themselves a smear campaign. Now, during a smear campaign, they don't want to appear to be an outsider. Now, this could be a coworker, someone you only knew for a short time. It doesn't necessarily have to be a love interest or a family member that may actually know something about your life. It can be someone on the fringes, as in my case right now. So how they'll use social media is they will crawl your social media and they will find out things about you. So when they are engaging in a smear campaign, they will appear to be someone in the know, someone connected to you, though they're not. Another way the narcissist really enjoys using social media is once you've discarded them and moved on, or they've discarded you and you've moved on, they love to post pictures of their new victim, hoping that you're going to catch this and feel hurt by this. This is very, very typical. So if you haven't yet got to this place, you will arrive here soon, I'm sure. Now, in the case of your typical sort of narcissist, they're going to need supply exactly like drug addicts need drugs. That same type of fevered, frenzied, feeding desperation. It's the exact same. Social media is wonderful for keeping people connected, and if you use it for good, it can be a fabulous thing. But when someone is so depraved that they're using this for evil, unfortunately, it can be a pretty big platform for them. But on the other hand, in the case of this stalker I have right now, she has absolutely proven beyond a question of a doubt that her state, her mental state, is so far beyond mental illness that it can be perceived only as demonic possession. It's really quite all-telling. And I did put everything together, plus I sent out about 30 emails to people that know her, ex-partners, co-workers, just people who have been involved with her that I knew had been involved with her. And I'll tell you, people were very, very quick to reply. One of the words that was continuous throughout, well, a few: repulsion, repulsive. So I put all this together in a package, video footage, the 1,800 comments and growing daily that she has been spamming me with. So I put it all together. I sent it to a psychiatrist, and I waited actually several days to get a reply back. Anyways, she looked at all the emails, she looked at the 1,800 comments, she watched the videos, and she said immediately she was brought to a feeling of repulsion. She said there is no type of illness that causes people to look on at the sick person and feel a sense of repulsion. She said this is what people feel when they are confronted with, true demonic possession. She said beyond a question of a doubt, this person's mental state is far, far exceeding just mental illness. They are gravely, gravely ill. And an interesting kind of term that she used was, she said, and through this person's really bloated, beer-soaked face, the darting eyes, the incoherent banter, she said all of it definitely shows that she's gravely mentally ill, for one thing, but powered by absolute evil. She said that this person suffers from what she calls narcissistic decomposition. And she looks like that. This stalker actually looks like she's imploding, like she's decomposing. Now, I never heard this term before, so I really needed her to elaborate on this. And this is how she explained it to me. She said, as the narcissist gets older and becomes, looking like they were rode hard and put away wet, and they're starting to implode. Like, this woman has a really bloated face from alcoholism. She's quite unkept most of the time, and has really become the product of her soul sickness. Now, I would never want to insult the way someone looks, but this woman looks like the product of bile and toxicity and evil. I mean, she truly is morphing into the evil that she's been spewing out on the world her whole life. So what happens is, there's no reward for being evil. In fact, Satan's not going to thank their little domestic, low-level demons for the harm they've inflicted. In fact, she says what happens is when the person starts to morph into the state of decomposition, that they actually are abandoned by their demon because they're no longer even serving the demon. They don't have the capacity to lure people with their sexuality. They don't have the ability to sweet-talk people, and quite typically, they've become so unstable mentally that it's impossible for them to even set a trap to catch a new victim. So the demon will actually abandon them. Now, many of us have wondered, we've talked before about what happens to the old narc. Well, this old narc, and I'll tell you, she looks like she's been rode hard and put away wet. But what happens after they've been discarded by family and friends and love interests, and they've just been discarded and nobody wants anything to do with them anymore? Once they've burnt all their bridges, the last resource that they had, the last thing that they had was their demon. And they get absolutely dumped, discarded, and kicked to the curb by their demon too, left an absolute frail, empty shell of nothing, just a black pit of hell, just spewing toxic bile on the world. And they actually almost start to cannibalize themselves. They experience rapid aging, physical pain, disease, and this is what soul sickness does to people. This psychiatrist actually is putting together a very, very extensive letter, which I believe she wants forwarded onto their family. She believes that this person should be, in a controlled environment, seeing them as someone who's potentially quite dangerous. Eventually, these creeps always expose themselves. If you just give them enough rope, they will truly hang themselves. Remember, they see you as superior entities. They're absolute habitual pathological liars, and everything they're saying about you can quite typically be proven to be confessions. Now, I could have introduced a ton of articles out of the CBC, out of the Vancouver Sun, all kinds of publications that clearly depict her as mentally ill, someone who is constantly having run-ins with the law, someone who has had many restraining orders put against them, someone who is cited by the CBC and called, a troll, a cyber stalker and a troll. But that would have introduced her name, and I know that she desperately, desperately wants to be seen. But here at Kim Wilson TV, I'm sorry, she's invisible. She just doesn't matter enough to warrant me ever saying her name. And I like to think I have more class than to publicly, yuck. How ugly is that? Always remember you're dealing with nothing. There's nothing there. No soul, no ability to love, no ability to be empathetic. Just an evil, cruel, desperate attention-seeking monster creature from the swamp. It desperately needs to create the illusion that it is somehow more than it really is. Honestly, it can be very frustrating. And yes, I've watched this fiend, absolute sack of shit, impersonate me, create imposter accounts at all the social media sites. It's actually posted 1,800 comments in a matter of days. This dirty, unkept, smelly thing has probably not slept or showered or eaten, probably just powered by canned beer and madness. And what can you do? Just laugh it off. They're only going to be able to feed off you if you give it to them. But to be honest with you, I'm really happy with my life. I'm really happy with the person I'm growing into. And I can't let this type of trash, absolute human trash, a loser, infiltrate my world. I refuse to let it. So if you're being smeared, just understand that this is an absolute piece of shit that is desperate for attention and will go to any length to get it at your expense. Now, I think the best option when you're in the midst of being smeared by one of these disgusting pieces of shit is to do your best to remember your integrity, remember your sense of morality, remember that you are a much bigger and much better person than them. Do not step to the edge of the swamp because they will try to drag you in. Remember that they are desperately, desperately ill, and their toxic energy is just disgusting. They're like something the dog coughed up with bile and white foamy stuff. I mean, that's what you're dealing with. They're not even human. So, I know it can be painful, it can be frustrating, but just give them the rope. Trust me, they will hang themselves. Pretty typical for these idiots. Now, one more thing I want to say before we end this video, and guys, I've really missed you, but she said that these people, these horrible, disgusting, sick people choose this. She said they absolutely choose the dark side. Many, many people experience trauma as children. She said this is a lie and this is an excuse. They absolutely choose the dark side because they are just soulless, empty, dead vessels. And, well, I thought that was kind of interesting that she had said that, because sometimes we almost overcompensate for them and say, oh, you know, poor narc, something happened to them as kids. Well, something happened to all of us as kids. And, you know, they picked this. I'm Kim. This is Kim Wilson TV. If you guys are being smeared today, you know, just try to brush it off to the best of your ability and know that these people are gravely ill. Love you guys a lot. See you soon.